We've just arrived at Hamad International Airport in Doha for a connecting flight up to Baghdad. We'll be in economy class with Qatar Airways on a Boeing 777-300ER. I was more than a bit surprised to see such a large plane scheduled for this short flight up to Baghdad. It turns out that the Arba'in pilgrimage is getting started in Iraq. This is the world's largest annual celebration, so millions of people are headed into Iraq to participate, and that explains the wide-body airplane today. Qatar more typically runs an A320 on this route, so the unusual equipment makes this flight all the more exciting. I'm just coming off a 12-hour flight over from the US, also with Qatar, so it'll be interesting to compare the service on this short hour-and-a-half flight against the long-haul experience. This is also my first trip to Iraq, so I'm very much looking forward to checking out the views on approach. It's afternoon, the weather should be clear, and there should be lots to see. Overall, this is definitely shaping up to be a memorable flight. After getting through the transfer security check at Doha, we find ourselves in the south wing of the airport, which contains gates A and B. My flight will be leaving from gate B6 nearby, but we're in no hurry, so we'll do a little exploring first. One of the things I spot here in the south part of the airport right away is this interesting guy called Lamp Bear. He's a bit of an icon at this airport. He's 23 feet tall, sculpted in bronze by Swiss artist Urs Fischer. If you have a connection here with time to explore, there's artwork throughout this airport by many well-renowned artists, both local and international. Something else that stands out right away is the impressive range of high-end shopping. It's not really my thing, but I think you'd find at least one store in this airport for any luxury brand you can think of. There is a train service to take us up to the north section, which is where gates D and E are located. We don't have to wait more than a minute for the train to depart, and it's a quick ride to the other end of the airport. There is also a walkway below with people movers if you prefer to explore on foot, and it's not all that far really. The C gates are also located along that concourse down below us. Once in the north wing, we're greeted by this grand open space. Hanging from the ceiling is a piece of art called Cosmos by French artist Jean-Michel Otoniel, which apparently symbolizes the paths of travelers around the globe. A bit further along, we find what I'm most curious to check out, which is the orchard, an indoor forest with some paths to explore, the sound of a waterfall, and places to relax in the feel of nature. There's even an area to lay down on the grass and take a nap during a long layover. This part of the airport opened just a few years back in 2022, and all around the orchard you'll find a variety of restaurants and cafes. In both the north and south wings of the airport, the food options are varied. This list from the Digital Concierge gives you a feel of what's on offer. Whether you're feeling like Eastern, Middle Eastern, or Western food, there looks to be options that would satisfy pretty much any preference. In addition to the artwork scattered around, you'll find some nice architectural design and interesting water features. And while it's a busy airport, I'm still able to find quiet spots to relax, enjoy some views of the tarmac, and charge up devices. I end up spending a little time in this tranquil corner, doing some work before heading down to the south wing. Definitely not the worst place to spend a layover. There's an impressive range of lounges in this airport, including some that offer day passes, but I was really happy just to explore and relax in the public spaces for a few hours. It's getting closer to boarding time, so time to head back down to my gate in the south part of the airport. The boarding areas in this section are in a glassed-off enclosure, and the windows have this sort of spotted covering that helps reduce heat gain in the Arabian sun. That means that the views are pretty restricted, but we can still spot a bit of our 777. And I only have to wait about 15 minutes or so before we're ready to board. We're sitting in the rear of the plane today, and that puts us in Group 1 for boarding. Nothing out of the ordinary for the boarding process, and we're on board before we know it. The cabin is upholstered in Qatar's signature purple, which feels somehow warm and cozy as we head down the aisle. We're in a 343 configuration in economy class, and this will be my window seat today, seat 47K. We've got a pillow, blanket, and some headphones waiting for us on the seat, and I'm already impressed to see those amenities on a short daytime flight. Once seated, the seatbacks have an ever so slightly more dated feel, at least compared to the A350 I was on earlier today. But we've still got a good sized screen and some nice seatback features, so certainly nothing I'd be complaining about. We'll look at those features more in just a minute. After the doors close, the crew hand out these refreshing towels, which seem to have been refrigerated since they're cold. And just after, they come around again with some cold water. These details are appreciated since the plane is a bit warm, even with the air vents on full blast and the window shades down before taxi. It is August in the Gulf, so keeping the planes cool must be a challenge. We push back from the gate just a few minutes after schedule, and it's a bit of a taxi out to our runway. Our hour-and-a-half flight will leave Hamad International due north, heading up the Persian Gulf, or Arabian Gulf depending on who you ask. We'll pass over Kuwait, and then up across Iraq. A bit after takeoff, there's an informational video about Qatar Airways' charitable work in the international education area. And now that we're in the air, let's look around the seat a bit. We've got a vertically adjustable headrest, and the legroom is pretty good. The seat pitch is listed as 31 to 32 inches, and at about 6 foot, I've got some room to stretch. The screens are quite big, and we've got a USB port near the screen, and there's a universal charger down under and between the seats. Below the screen, we have this ejectable remote device for navigating entertainment and things like controlling the reading light. The tray comes out of the seatback, as you'd expect, and up above we do have individual air vents, and I'm always happy to see those. The entertainment options are more than you could want for a short flight. They say Qatar's Oryx entertainment system has options numbering in the thousands. I didn't count, but it's a lot though. Compared to the long-haul flight I just got off, which again was on an A350, the options are similar, but I do notice a few small differences. The thing that really stands out most for me, this flight does not have options for the map. When you select the map, it just cycles through a variety of displays, and there's nothing interactive. The long-haul A350 had more map choices to keep you busy. Once we're at cruising altitude, I'm headed back to check out the lavatory in the rear of the aircraft. It feels on the roomy side. There's some wet wipes down by the toilet, and we've got some paper cups, a soap that's nicer than most short economy flights, and a good-sized wash basin. Maybe the best bathroom I've seen on an hour-and-a-half flight. Getting back to my seat, there's a meal service just getting started. Crew come around quickly once we reach cruising altitude, and the options are either a chicken or a vegetarian meal. I'm trying the chicken, and it's what's called chicken makbous, which is a typical Qatari dish. It's made with basmati rice, reminiscent of a biryani, but with a distinctive balance of Middle Eastern spices. At first it doesn't look like much, but the chicken turns out to be hiding down under the rice in a flavorful sauce, and I actually found this main course to be quite good. It's nicely spiced, at least for my taste, and I really like having something that's typical for the region. On the side is a grain salad with some vegetables. If you happen to catch my video on the long-haul flight I took into Doha, which I'll link to at the end, you know they served something similar that I thought was, let's say, unimpressive, but this version is much better. Still not my favorite side dish, but fine. The meal is accompanied by some water and orange nectar, a piece of bread, and a small Kit Kat for dessert. I don't love the nectar, actually, it's sort of sugary for my taste, but there's no time for an individualized drink service on this short and loaded flight, and at least they do include the separate water. Overall, the quality of the meal and the portion is what I would generally expect on a much longer flight. I'm not sure how quickly I'll get to eat after I arrive in Baghdad, so I'm really glad to have this full meal service. As soon as I'm done, they come around to clean up, and they're already announcing that we'll start our descent soon. You can tell that they're in a bit of a rush to get this meal service done with so little time, but still the quality of the service is excellent and the crew are really lovely. They seem to care about the guests having a pleasant experience. They're professional, but not in an uptight way. It's more of a relaxed and kind of approachable vibe. We cross back over land around northeastern Kuwait, and just a bit after we can see the city of Basra in southern Iraq. The river there is the Shatt al-Arab, which is the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. There's some haze, but the skies are clear and the views don't disappoint as we continue our descent. We're approaching Baghdad International from the south-southeast. The airport is on the western side of the city, basically on the edge of the urban zone. I'm on the right-hand side for some views in the direction of the city. The central parts of Baghdad are still pretty far off, but we still get to see a bit on the western side of town. So, I expect Qatar to be a solid experience for long-haul flights, but they do seem to live up to their stellar reputation even on short regional flights. The amenities, the meal service, the customer service, everything really exceeded my expectations. I love to check out different airlines, but I'll always be tempted to fly Qatar when I'm in this part of the world. We pull up next to this Iraqi Airways plane. I have a flight with them coming up soon, and of course I'm looking forward to checking that out. And you're most welcome to subscribe if you want to come along for that flight and others. And I'm going to be bouncing around the Middle East for a bit, so if there are any airlines you think I should check out in this part of the world, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll add them to my list. Thanks for coming along, and I'll see you on the next trip.